Hi guys, this is Dormouse03 continuing my Assassin's Creed 3 Perfectionist Guide, where I'm going to be getting 100% of all the main mission constraints. And this is sequence 7, and so the first mission here is Paul Revere's Midnight Ride, which is pretty cool. And so now it's prompting you to push LB to ask for directions. And this horse, I don't know, I have difficulties controlling the horse on this level. So forgive my randomly getting stuck places. I don't know why the horses seem to be always so weird to control. So on this, it's pretty basic. You just want to make sure that you avoid all of the British soldier guys, and you want to keep pushing left bumper to ask him for directions. So you want to always make sure that you're going in the right direction, and getting to the place that you need to go at the best path to get there. You don't want to be running circles around. And so once you make it to this place where it prompts you to go on foot, you want to get off your horse, and then you just want to be careful of these guards that are patrolling around. You don't want them to get close to you. And so you just want to sort of hang out here and wait for them to leave. I did an edit right here because I did some meandering around that area like an idiot because I didn't realize that the house was right there. So that was the house. The first one that you end up behind is the one where you want to go, and all you have to do is just wait for the British troops that are patrolling to move away, and you'll be able to walk up to it just like I did, no problem. And so this next part, you're sort of doing the exact same thing. You're going to be doing this a couple of times, and all you're doing is riding along, periodically, you know, checking with your left bumper to make sure that you're headed in the right direction, and trying to avoid those troops that are patrolling. So you'll notice that I sort of got off the main path there for a little while, just because I didn't want to risk raising their suspicions and messing up. So the only problem about not taking the main roads is that you end up in spots like this where it's sort of difficult to maneuver your horse through. So that's the only thing that could be a potential issue. And I get off here and go talk to this guy because I thought that this was where the mission marker was, but it's actually not. This is, it looks like a frontiersman mission. And obviously I couldn't do that at that point, so I was so confused. I was like, what's going on? Why isn't it letting me do this thing? But that wasn't the mission that I was on at the moment. That's the frontiersman guy. So, in any case, you get back on with Paul Revere, you go to the right location, and then you walk around and find the house that you're supposed to be finding. And if anybody's having trouble finding those frontiersman missions, you can sort of take note of where that place was on your map. Because I had a problem finding the frontiersman cabins out in the frontier for a second, because the icon for whatever reason won't show up on your map at a certain point in the game. I just wasn't getting the icon to go to the missions, and so
This is it. You have got the right place.
I finally made my way to the correct house. And as you notice, even when you're off the horse, you can still push left bumper. to get him to sort of point in the direction where you want to go. So if you're having trouble finding the correct house, which you shouldn't, because you just saw me find the right one, so that will be where you should go. But if you are having trouble finding it, you get turned around, which happens to me often, you can sort of push your "Where do we go, Paul Revere?" button, and he will point in the correct direction. And so right here I'm trying to avoid those British troops by crossing the river, but the horse didn't want to do it. So what I did was just wait for them to move on a little bit, and you probably could have waited a few seconds more because they did get sort of suspicious there, but they didn't see me, so everything was good. And so after you trigger this last house, you're going to have a timer, and you're going to have to get to your next location within like 1 minute and 58 seconds. And so to do that, you're going to need to not get into a fight with the troops. And so I ended up cutting through this corner right here, cutting through the forest, because there's some troops that come and try to attack you on the road there. And that avoids getting into conflict with them, which can really waste a lot of your time. So if you cut through there, you sort of avoid that part of it, and you can get right back on the road. Because you also don't want to be wandering around too much in the woods and not on a path, because the horse is so finicky to control. I mean, I'm trying to follow the road, and I'm getting stuck on things as I'm trying to follow the road. So, you know, the horses is not the easiest thing to control in this, and so you don't want to be putting it through too many forest areas, or else you're gonna get lost. Or not necessarily lost, but you might get into a spot where you are going somewhere that the horse can't go. So once you get to this door right here, you've reached your destination, and you see you had plenty of time just there. So as long as you sort of do what I did and sort of avoid the open conflict with the soldiers, which you can get into at that point, at that moment you have sort of fulfilled that optional constraint of not getting into open conflict. But if you do, you're gonna really run down your time pretty fast. So
now let's find Hancock and Adams.
Now you're just following your waypoints. You don't really have a timer right now, I don't think, unless it's one of the sort of invisible timers where you'll just fail, but I don't think so. And it's pretty simple to sort of follow the little markers here. So after yet another cutscene, you will be done with the midnight ride. And so that's done, and so you will have completed your 2 optional objectives with that one to get your full sync. And the 2 optional objectives for this was do not trigger open conflict, and that was during the first part, up until you get the part where you have to reach Prescott's location within 2 minutes, I guess it was, not 1 minute and 58. So that is that mission down, and we'll be moving on to Lexington and Concord. And so the first thing that you're going to be doing here is delivering a letter, and so you want to get on this horse and follow the little waypoint here. And so you have 3 minutes, and that seems like plenty of time to get to where you need to go to deliver this letter. The only hitch that you're gonna come across in this is another optional objective that you're gonna trigger in just a minute, where you have to rescue some hostages. And so depending on how long it takes you to do that, it can put you really close to the time limit. And so I'm going to show you where they are and how to do it right here. I'm sure that you can do it a lot faster and more efficiently than I do it right here. when you know where that's supposed to pop up, and how to do that. So right there you trigger the rescue some hostages objective. And so you want to just continue to follow the road here for a while, and I'm wondering where they are, and so I see behind me the red little markers pop up, and so the hostages are back this way. And so I had to backtrack a little bit here, and then my horse gets stuck because I went too far to the right there. So I'm sure that you can do that a little bit more cleanly than I did, but this is where the hostages thing is, and as long as you sort of come in here and get them to focus on you, that will make the hostages rescued. And so now all you have to do is just sort of take these people out, and you may not even have to kill these guys because you have fulfilled that constraint right now. So you may not even need to kill these dudes because you see how this is taking me a long time. This isn't my my most shining moment at the combat of this game, but and I don't know, maybe you did have to kill the guys because it looked like it didn't turn blue until after I finished killing the last guy. So but that took me a fair amount of time just then, and if you know where that pops up now, you can make sure to go there straight away and not get your horse stuck and do a little bit better at the combat than I was able to pull off at that moment. And so you won't be coming up as close to the time limit here. But once you reach that spot, you are good, and you will have fulfilled that objective. And so now you've got another little part here, and you're going to be going between 3 different sections of Patriot soldiers, and you're going to be giving them orders to fire and kill some British troops. And so you need to kill 7 groups of British soldiers with 1 shot. That sounded not like what you're supposed to do. So you have to kill a group of British soldiers with 1 shot, and you have to do that 7 times. You don't have to kill 7 groups with 1 shot. You have to kill a group with one firing order, and you have to do that 7 times. So you want to just kind of go in between these groups because the British troops will appear, and sort of wait for the British troops to get kind of close. You know, it's the sort of don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes kind of thing. You want to wait for them to get sort of set up, and then you want to give the order. And that way you'll be able to take them out with the single barrage of fire. And so if you just keep going in between them, give the order to fire, and then go move on to the next group, you can give your orders without losing too many patriots in between, because you'll see that you have this counter there, and you have 2 little bars up at the left. And so now I've gotten my 7 out of 7 groups with a single order, and so now I just have to worry about finishing this out. And I'm just going to travel in between the groups, give the order to fire, and then move on back through the groups, because you want to make sure that you have that sort of regulars defeated, however many, 130 out of 130, completed before you lose the bar of patriots. And gosh, these horses give me such problems. Like, I was getting worried there for a second. I was like, dang it. I I can't get back to the soldiers, and they're all dying because I'm over here floundering around on this stupid horse. Jumping on rocks and doing stupid shit. So yeah, don't get your horse stuck. I don't know. I don't know if other people have as much difficulty as I seem to have had with the controlling of the horses on some of these missions, but in any case, there it was. You killed your 7 out of 7 groups, and then you just want to make your way to the last waypoint. Loot some bodies, have some fun. You know, there's not still a war going on. You have time to loot corpses. It's cool. And so that is the end of Lexington and Concord. And you will have fulfilled your objectives for that. And be ready to move on to the next mission. And so this next mission is called Conflict Looms. You have a short section here where you follow this guy and see a cutscene, and then you're going to start the part of the mission where you have some objectives. So the first optional objective is to cross Charlestown without dying. And so I tried this a few different ways, and eventually came upon the way that I'm going to show you here. I at first tried to go across the rooftops, but that didn't really work out. I thought about sort of taking a long route around, but it won't let you go through right there. And so I decided to just go down on the streets. It seems like it's the worst option, but actually you're not going to really take very much of the cannon fire when you're down here in the streets. And I guess maybe that's because the buildings are kind of blocking it. I got a little tripped up here because I was running away from a cannon shot and then got caught in the animation running up the side of that building. So that was a little bit of a mistake. But I just sort of ran through the streets here. And, I mean, I don't know how you're not taking damage from the cannons, because they do seem to hit fairly close to you, but nothing was hitting me, and I kept getting hit while I was on the roofs, but not when I was on the street. So hopefully that helps you be able to fulfill that objective, just sort of staying down on the streets. And now I get to the part of this mission that I hated. So you see how that guy up there on the ship kind of saw me just then? Sometimes they do while you're swimming across here, sometimes they don't. I don't know why or how that's different every time I do it. I don't know. But this part was very difficult for me to get into a reliable strategy. So I'm going to show you the way that I was able to replicate it a few times, so that hopefully you will be able to replicate it as well. The first thing I do is wait for the grenadier to walk by and then ledge assassinate this guy. And so that takes care of him. Your optional objectives here, by the way, you're trying to light the powder kegs on both of these ships without getting spotted, and air assassinate that grenadier. And so the air assassination of the grenadier is the hard part here. And so this one guy, you would think you could ledge assassinate him after the sort of grenadier walks by, but every time they saw me. So I decided to use a poison dart here. I meant to actually put the dart in the guy that was closest to me, but I ended up missing and hitting the guy that was a little farther away. So you can do that either way. You can poison dart the one that's sort of right in front of you, or you can put a poison dart in one of the two guys that are farther up at the front of the ship, and then whichever strategy you use there, you just want to quickly assassinate the other two. And like I said, the reason that I did that was I kept getting seen. every time I would go to ledge assassinate that guy, and I don't know who was seeing me, the grenadier and the guy back here were, you know, not facing my direction, but somehow every time I tried to ledge assassinate that dude at the front of the ship, I kept getting spotted. And so the best way that I could figure to do it was to try to use the poison, and that worked, and that worked reliably several times. So hopefully if you're having trouble there, that will help you. And so now I'm kind of waiting. The grenadier went up to investigate those dead bodies at the front of the ship. And so I'm waiting for him to get kind of back to his regular programming, because I didn't want to risk him seeing me. And so now you may want to try killing this guy at the back of the ship while that grenadier is investigating the bodies at the front, because that may give you the opportunity to kill this guy at the back without getting spotted by the grenadier, in a sort of more graceful way than I'm able to do it here. But if that gives you problems, this way that I'm going to show you how to do it right now does work. So I kind of waited for the grenadier to get back on track, and then while he's facing away from me, I'm going to come up, and instead of assassinating him, I'm going to shoot an arrow. So that kept the grenadier from really seeing me too much. And then I meant to just kind of walk around these boxes, but I got caught right there on the box. So yeah, don't do that. Just sort of walk around the boxes, climb up the boxes a little bit, and then air assassinate the grenadier. I got a little lucky there because I did screw it up a little bit by getting caught on the boxes, or barrels or crates or whatever they are, but I was able to pull it back together and get the air assassination on the guy. But that part right there is tricky. And then I lit the powder kegs to blow up the ship. But that is difficult, and one of the most frustrating things about it is that sometimes they'll see you at moments when they never saw you before. And it's kind of odd to me that it doesn't follow a pattern any more than it does. Sometimes they'll just see you, and no one was looking that direction, but somehow they just saw you, and you're not doing a high profile, you know, assassination move, but still somehow they just saw you. So the way that I did it just then is kind of the only way that I was able to do it and be able to replicate that multiple times. So hopefully that helps you out. Now this second ship is definitely easier because you don't have to worry about killing anyone. You just want to wait for this guy over to the left of me is patrolling, and then there's another guy that sort of patrols around the whole boat. So you want to wait for the guy at the front of the ship there on the left to get to the spot where he is right now, and then turn around, and then wait for the other guy to walk by you, and as soon as he walks by you, you want to run straight up and light the powder. And then you want to run right back and dive off. And so the one guy was kind of alerted, but I got off the back of the ship and into the water fast enough that it doesn't matter. So he was not able to detect me before he lost track of where I was. So luckily, if you're able to get to get that first part down, this second ship shouldn't give you too much trouble, because they do seem to be on more of a pattern than the other ship. It's slightly more reliable. I don't know. This mission just frustrated me because of the inconsistency of it. Like, sometimes while you were swimming up to the boat you would get spotted, and sometimes you would do the exact same, you would swim the exact same path and no one would spot you. And sometimes, you know, there were times when I could ledge assassinate that one guy at the front of the ship and no one would see me, and then other times I would do it at the exact same moment, in the AI's paths, so that their backs were turned and they would see me. And I don't know, I really didn't like the inconsistency there. But hopefully the way that I did it can help you if you're having trouble with that spot. Because after you raise the flag there, that sequence is over and you will have completed all of your optional objectives. The first one was to cross Charlestown without taking any damage, which was actually the easiest one of the constraints. And then you remained undetected while on the ships and air assassinated the Grenadier. So that was one of the trickier missions in the entire game, in my opinion. This next mission, you follow that guy and then you end up here, and so you want to start running immediately. And get to this cover right here. And then you want to time your movement from cover to cover in between the shots. And so you want to wait and then move. What you're waiting for is three things. There are three sort of signs. One is the people saying, "Find some cover, they're gonna fire." One of those things. The second is you can see their sort of guns firing all at once, just like that. And the third is seeing the bullets hit your cover. And so the more reliable way is to watch for their muzzles to flash, and to see the environmental damage. So the guns flash, I take off. And on those first few pieces of cover, not so much that last one because it was sort of a tree trunk and it was hard to see the environmental damage that the bullets are doing, but on the first pieces of cover you see their guns flash, you see the sort of rocks chipping, and then you know that it's safe to move. So that gets you through that optional objective. And then I took some time here and murdered these guys. You can probably sneak around and just avoid having a conflict with these people. But after that stupid ship section of the last mission, I really just wanted to murder some dudes. And so you can do that here. And so yeah. These last couple of missions have some tricky constraints. And I would say the Conflict Looms one that we just did was one of the hardest of the main mission constraints to actually pull off. And even more difficult to sort of pull it off reliably. So to do it in a way that that you could actually replicate that strategy more than once, in any sort of consistent fashion. So and then all of these requirements to like cross the towns and to cross the battlefields and whatnot without taking any damage were they weren't as bad, because you just kind of had to figure out the route to go and the moments to run, and it wasn't too difficult. But it's certainly not on easy mode anymore as far as doing these optional objectives. So if you're finding it challenging, then I'm right there with you. So now you get a couple more optional objectives. You want to limit regular kills, and you want to air assassinate Pitcairn. And so you sort of come over here and try to remain in the cover, and this guy will kind of walk right by this area where I'm staying right here, and then I stealth assassinate him. And so the stealth assassinations, the ones that you can do from a hiding spot, don't count as one of those 4 regular kills, and so you're able to take out a couple of these guys without ever putting yourself in danger of getting more than 3 of the 4 kills. In fact, I don't think I get any. Because I only kill 2 guys plus Pitcairn. And so now right here, that guy saw me. I was trying to make sure that the people who were sort of patrolling on a route in the middle didn't see me, and I messed up my timing with this dude. But luckily enough, I was able to come around the corner of this tent and hide from him. And as soon as his little dot went away, I gave him a little whistle and was able to do the corner assassination, which again doesn't count as one of your regular kills. So that helps you to not have to worry about that. And then when you come over here, this is the area that you want to go to be getting your air assassination. But you want to be careful because the guys can see you from pretty far away right here. So that dude who's right in front of me right now, I'm going to wait for him to turn around, and then I'm going to creep up this tree. And the soldiers who are patrolling there in the middle, I want to make sure that their backs are turned to me before I attempt to head on over to this other tree to the right, and then make my way over to the flagpole, which will allow me to get the air assassination. And so that is the end of Sequence 7. And you will have all of your optional objectives. So that completes this mission. You were able to get the 3 optional objectives for this one. Crossing the battlefield without taking any damage. Limiting your amount of regular kills to less than 4, and air assassinating Pitcairn. And so you get your achievement for the end of that sequence. And you should, if you did everything as I did it in the guide here, you will have 100% of your mission constraints on Sequence 7. So that was one of the tougher sequences in my opinion. Let me know how you found it, and I hope that some of the strategies that I was able to give to you there will help you if you're having trouble in some of the spots, because like I said before, the area on the ship is just a nightmare, or it was to me. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in Sequence 8.